Hey everyone, Depressed Eeyore here with more Langrisser Mobile, Apex Arena. Let's do this. So again, I got really close to Silver 1 and then lost a bunch. So I'm just trying to get that back. Um, my opponent is apparently Pooh. They actually opened with banning my Lycoris of all things. And then looking at my opponent, it's again, oh, this is actually a second fight where there was no juggler. So kudos to this person who had no juggler. Um, it cannot be overstated how ridiculously strong Juggler is as a tank and as everything else. He's just so broken. So I definitely appreciate anyone who does not take Juggler. They actually went with Landius and Amelia. Um, so anything else of note, really? It's honestly kind of just a. I won't say a standard box, but I usually say that's if it weren't for the meta, this would be a standard box. Because it has a mixture of a little bit of everything. A little bit of magic, a little bit of attack. Has 1, 2, 3 in a D-lit, so the three healers in a D-lit, 2 tanks. Or sorry, 3 tanks. There's a 11 here. And then some assassins. So it's a, like I said, that's what I kind of consider a standard box. The meta box is usually just a bunch of AoE. Anyway, since they didn't have a juggler, I went ahead and banned their Zerda first. Just get rid of the assassins right off the bat. Took my Freya. They started banning my healers and my assassins. They took Landius as their tank. Not surprised, since he's kind of number 2 right now until Albedo comes out. Since they banned my TRS, I was like, I was kind of back and forth about whether or not I wanted to grab a healer immediately, because obviously I kind of have some off healers if I really need to pick something else. But at this point, I was like, you know what? I need to make sure I have some sort of way of at least not necessarily reliable heals, but reliable buffs. And Sophia at least could provide that. And of course, they started banning my other faction buffers and high mobility. They took Listel as their second pick. As for what I banned, of course, I banned their other assassin, and I took care of Knight of Mystery because high mobility AoE magic is pretty annoying. Anyway, as for that, I went ahead and started banning their healers just so I could force them to pick one of their healers. And took my Claret at this point. They start banning the rest of my stuff, nothing too out of the ordinary. They took D-Lit for their healer, I was like, okay, that's fine. Went ahead and banned their primary casters, because I want them to be physical. I wanted to reduce them down to as much physical damage as possible, because Freya is obviously very, very tanky against physical. I went ahead and took Sherlinka. Obviously the big issue is I don't have a faction buff, but I do have Sophia's buffs that at least help with that. And then they banned my Estelle and my Rosalia, and they left me with... I was actually really surprised. They actually left me with a faction buffer. And you could probably guess who I pick. So I went ahead and banned their Ledin because I did not want to deal with his teleport yanking shenanigans. They actually took Amelia for our second tank. I went ahead and got rid of Elwen. I wasn't too concerned about Leon, and if they wanted a second healer, I was kind of okay with them having a second healer. I actually did not take a faction buff. I went ahead and just took Elestriel because I have Sophia, and that's really all I needed. And my Elestriel can at least get buffed by Freya. So this one I actually have set up as Demon Hunters, so I went ahead and took Neutralizing Fire instead of Onrush or whatever it was called. As for our opponents, this is an offensive D-Lit, so they took Windcutter Dagger instead of Gospel. I'm not sure why. She should have at least taken Gospel, because she can't buff. Landius can buff himself, Listel, and Chloe. And the Amelia has no buff. So the big issue here is that D-Lit and their Amelia has no buffs. Also, this Amelia has Vanguard Lancers, which aren't very tanky. I guess she's just set up for offense, maybe? I don't know. Like I said, this kit was kind of all over the place. The other thing to note, of course, is their Chloe only has less than 7,000 HP. Now, it's quite possible this person are using borrowed units or whatever from the Apex pool. I haven't looked at it, so I'm not sure. But yeah, this is kind of crazy. Anyway, so everything else, there's not really much to go over. The Illustrial is a little bit different, and that's about it. Everything else is the same for me. So I went ahead and moved Illustrial first. The big issue here is since I'm relying heavily on Sophia buffs, and they only last 2 turns, I have to kind of pay attention to what order I resolve my turns in. So the dual tanks, both the tanks have self-resing capabilities. Both Amelia and Landius can self-res once, so it's actually a pretty hefty wall there. Oh, actually, I did not go over the Chloe. The Chloe is full support. And then the Listel, the one thing I checked on Listel was to see if she had Reaper's Touch. This one does not have Reaper's Touch, instead she has Seal. So she is pure, she's kind of pure debuff. So at this point I measured out the distance, I was like, okay, there's no other dangers. The Listel doesn't have Reaper's Touch, so I can go all the way to here safely without getting hit by anything. And with this, since all of the unit, the unit that's not clumped up right now is Amelia, and possibly the Listel, depending on where she moves. The big thing here is whether or not, which target do I want to kill? Do I want to kill the Chloe, or do I want to kill the D-Lit? So, I could go after the Listel, but I don't think I would have gotten the kill. So I took out the D-Lit. I consider her a bigger threat than the Chloe. And then so let's go ahead and quickly go over that. So obviously I went for the D-Lit, and then I had extra 2 movement because that's how Broken Dream works. It gives you 2 movement. So I went ahead and moved as far back as I could. So if they want to kill my Shalinka, they have to go after her. They'll have to devote people over here. My Shalinka was actually able to tank the Landius hit. My Skeleton Knights are actually really tanky because they have all the benefits. They have all the troop benefits of the casters and the holy units, which that's one of my prime troops. So while they're busy with dealing with Shalinka, I went ahead and closed in with Freya. Aurora ranks being set up, that's fine. Getting hit with Mind Bore. So yeah, they decided to leave my, they did actually have a way of killing Shalinka, which is kind of impressive. I mean, if their Chloe at least had some sort of offensive ability, she would have been possibly be able to do it, but not in this case. So they went and got the kill in. I don't have to worry about the mist. It's the stun's gonna wear off before the mist reaches her. Now, one thing to note: the self-res. Whenever self-resing happens, that heal, initial heal you get from the res, does not get reversed. So even with the heal reversal here, it didn't kill her. Alright, and then just one thing I was checking. Chloe here. Yeah, her int's actually pretty low. But she should have still been able to get the kill if she had an offensive ability. Alright. Anyway, back to this. So at this point, their forces are split. I've taken out one of their prime DPSers, and they decided to move there for whatever reason. So I was like, alright, well, I'll go ahead and finish off your Chloe. Now you have no heals. And I have Roundabout on her, so I was able to move out of range. And I went ahead and attacked Amelia. I wasn't sure how strong the Amelia was going to be. But I ended up one-shotting her. And even with the Divine Sanctuary, I was like, okay. I went ahead and fell back, though, because my buffs were wearing off, and I wasn't sure. I didn't want to risk not getting the kill. So I was like, well, I took care of the self-res, that's good enough. The heal, the passive heal that she had, Shalinka had active while sleeping, did get reversed, so she took some damage there, but she's okay. So one thing I tried to do here was I was trying to bait the Listel. You might have noticed I moved my my Sophia here. The Listel could have either gone for Illustrial and Freya, or could have gone for Sophia and Freya. I was thinking that maybe my opponent would go after the Sophia to try to take out my healer, which would have been a trap because my Sophia is immune to fixed damage. But this one went straight for my Illustrial, which thankfully she was able to survive. So at this point, they're down to their tanks. Only Landius has the self-res remaining. This Amelia, you can see from the stats here, her stats aren't particularly great, especially for a physical tank. I mean, her magic defense is at least better, but overall, she's just not there. The main benefit also Amelia has is she can actually counter at range, kind of like Landius does, but it doesn't work against 3 range. Anyway, so Landius decided to fall back. I'm not sure why. If he had stayed in place, he could have at least ensured the kill on the Sri Lanka. So I was like, alright, well I'm just going to move up and wait for the silence to pass. And I'm just using this as an opportunity to kind of get healed up and ready to finish things off. So Amelia tried to fight. As you can see, it went as well as you may have expected. So Justice, it's physical against Freya, it's just not going to do anything. So I was like, alright, well I'll just finish you off from range. And then of course her exclusive healed her up. So yeah, at this point, I don't even know. I mean, eventually my opponent should give up, but I don't remember if I don't even remember if he even bothered. So, doing Roar gets rid of some of his buffs. I'm constantly giving coverage to my my characters, just playing it safe at this point. Like I said, in my previous videos, I threw a lot of matches, so I'm just trying to be a lot more careful, even though it's obviously a 1-on-5 at this point. Landius is fixed immune. That's something that's very common. Every Landius I run into is usually fixed immune, with a few exceptions. So I was trying to get some... I was trying to just get the kill, but it looks like it's just going to be all to color at the end. Actually, I could do it with Freya. There you go. So there goes the res. I didn't really need to do this. I could have just used the... I was using the lightning ability anyway, which gives me a second strike if it doesn't kill. But like I said, I was just trying to play it safe. Also, I was just kind of seeing how well certain characters do against Landius. And yeah, slowly getting there. Alright, this match. Alright, let's take a look at this box. So, as always, I banned the juggler, but look at this. AoE, technically an AoE, and has freaking guard bypass. AoE, sniping. Actually, okay, so this Sigma was actually an Archer Sigma. If he was actually a Sword Sigma, he would have been more dangerous. Assassin Zerida. Oh my god, what's her name? I can't remember her name anymore. I don't use her anymore, so... that's gonna drive me nuts. Give me a second. Imelda, that's her name. There's too many I's and E names in this game. Anyway, so that's Imelda. The main thing about Imelda is her passive hero buff does increased damage. Also, her 3-cost skill makes it so you get increased damage and an additional mobility. So she could be really dangerous. Then we got ourselves more AoE. Then we got Yusuke, got some long range. And then of course we got freaking Weiler himself. So like I said, it's pretty... This box is dangerous. They banned my Zerida. They take a tank, so I was like, alright, good. That means I can take out more of your freaking AoE and assassins. I was really torn on who to ban here, because Sigma is pretty dangerous. I always assumed the Sigma is a sword one. And even as a sword, they can expand their range. It's just really dangerous. But I definitely had to get rid of Rian for one thing, so just had to. Took Freya, as always. They start banning kind of a mixture of things. They take their Zerida, so they have an assassin now. I banned the rest of their assassins, including their AoEs. I took Angelina. Give me one moment. Sorry about that. Alright, they banned my faction buffers. No surprise there. They take Claret, so they have high mobility as well. And can be buffed by Landius. That was another thing I was concerned about. I went ahead and got rid of TRS because TRS with Claret is awful. Got rid of Yusuke because I didn't want to deal with that nonsense on top of everything. I took Sophia just to ensure I have some sort of buffing capability. And then of course they took Rian. At this point, they were going to get at least a healer, which was fine. Or sorry, Renee. I think it's pronounced Renee, but I'm not sure. So I took out the two healers I knew were going to be a danger. Chloe was going to be the least threat, and if they take Rachel over Chloe, that would actually be an advantage for me. I took D-Lit just to get that extra mobility and support. Also to help deal with any of the debuffs that Renee provides. They took Chloe, and I actually take Tiaris, so I have a lot of healers here. So this match was ridiculous. It gave me a headache. That's why I don't like the meta, because it's so ridiculous. Then again, this is not really the meta. This is assassin stuff, so it's not AoE, so I can't really say it's the meta. But still, it's pretty brutal. So one thing to note about the Claret they have is, for one thing, it's a Griffin Knight, so they don't actually get any extra. Yeah, they went with Griffin Knights. It looks like, yeah, and her attack is not particularly high compared for a flyer. As you can see, my Angelina has about 1500. This one has 1289. This one's actually a 4-star Claret. You can tell because it can only get a maximum of 4 blocks. Standard Renee here with a free strike and a bunch of AoE debuffs. So the one thing to note, the one thing I eventually took note of was the Zerda here does not have Bloodthirster. Instead, she has Shadow Raid. Shadow Raid bypasses guard with no requirements, but she doesn't get any of that fancy stuff like Killing Blow, where she can just target the hero directly. So that's something I'll take advantage of in a bit. The Chloe here has heavy infantry, a little bit of offense, and then the Landius here is standard. I don't think I did anything too special. The kit here, yeah, it's all pretty standard. My D-Lit is set up for support, but she can definitely dish out some damage if necessary. So the big thing here is my Angelina can only get buffs from the Gossable or from Sophia. Freya can buff everybody else though. So like I said, so the things I have to be mindful of is the Claret. As you can see, her threat range is just massive. The Zerda, of course, gonna have extra movement, and then slowly but surely, this Renee is gonna close in, and then she's gonna start AoEing me. So I went ahead and just took this opportunity as I got set up with the Angelina. My opponent is very much well aware of what Angelina can do, and so he's moving his units in a way so I can't actually. I can't set up the AoE. I can only hit at most 2 people with how he moves. So I'm constantly moving my Angelina around, and he's adjusting to that. And I also have to, as I'm moving around, I have to take note of this Claret that's constantly going to be threatening me. And then this Zerda here is going to eventually get in range and bypass guard. So it's just a lot of things I have to take into account here. So I went ahead and just used this as an opportunity to go ahead and get buffs up. Went ahead and got Gossable up on Angelina. It's actually slightly stronger attack buff than what Sophia provides, but at this point he's already spread out. I can't get the hit in, and of course, all through this mist is closing in. All right. So here you can see the attack range here. Freya's not really in any danger. Like I said, the Zerda does not have Bloodthirster, so Killing Blow is not going to target the hero directly, and Zerda's not going to be able to kill a physical tank. So I went ahead and the reason I moved Angelina into range is because my Angelina has last rites, and she's reasonably tanky because she's kind of a bruiser type. So Zerda with Killing Blow might not be able to get the kill. And the bandits are assassins, they're not archers, so she's not going to get any of that fancy bonus from that at least. She might have an accessory that helps with flyers, but that's about it. So, and sure enough, he took the bait. So Shadow Raid, which honestly she should have went killing blow, but that's okay. Didn't get the kill, and so I was able to follow up with Elven Aura and immediately kill their Zerida. So at this point, the only thing I have to worry about now is the AoEs from Renee and Clarette's expanded mobility. Renee went ahead and did Calamity Throw. It was kind of a it was free as far as like applying it, but it was actually a waste because I had Gospel active, so none of the debuffs applied. So it was kind of a waste, and the cooldowns for these abilities does take a number of rounds. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, I'm kind of safe at this point. But where she's positioned at this point, her Patter Matter has it's 3 wide and 6 long. So with that, she can literally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty much, she can cover. She has coverage. She's gonna hit me with that AOE. There's not much I can do about it. But since there's no more Zerida, I don't really need to worry about it too much. I did get Rewind, so that's why I'm able to do Phalanx again. And I'm kind of just using this as an opportunity to go ahead and get healed up. I haven't AoE'd yet, so he's still taking that into account. As you can see how he's spacing everything out. So yeah, he's spaced in such a way that I can't do it. I went ahead and moved Angelina down to kind of minimize how many could get hit by this Patter Matter. The annoying thing is, of course, that she has a accessory that removes buffs as well. So that's what the silence was. So I went ahead and just used, that's when I went ahead and used my Sea of Miracles to go ahead and get the debuffs removed, which helped out a bit. Going to go ahead and get Angelina set up. So the big issue here now is there's still the Clarette, and the mist is closing in. I have to constantly be moving forward, and if I have to, while moving forward, I have to make sure I stay in guard range. So I'm constantly applying buffs. At this point, Renee has used both her AoEs, so all that's left is her single target, which is actually Free Strike, which would probably kill Freya. Okay, I was just checking something. Like I mentioned before, I was constantly measuring out distance and trying to figure out where I could position Angelina to possibly get an AoE in. And during that entire process, my clock was ticking down, and eventually I actually ran out of time twice in this match. And whenever you run out of time during a round, the AI takes an action for you. So there's a few situations where I just my character, you'll see a character just move like a step and do something, and it's actually the AI and not me doing it. So yeah, the mist is closing in. I have to move eventually. And since the threat range for Clarette at this point is the entire battlefield, it's proccing Deedlit's Forest of No Return, which is a bit annoying, but it does allow her to cycle through buffs faster. So now my back row has to move because Poison Mist is here, and my Freya's guard is going to wear off. So I have to kind of just position her and see what happens. But I'm going to pass turn because I have 5 units, so I'm going to pass turn and kind of force them to act first. So here, my guard range... Okay, my guard range is still at 2, but my Sophia is actually not guarded right now. So I don't know what happened here, but they actually moved their Chloe. My guess is it's either my character, they didn't want to kill the Sophia yet, because right now the Sophia could be killed by Clarette. But it would be a trade at that point, because I would be able to attack with Deedlit and Angelina to finish her off. So that's probably why she didn't go for the kill with Clarette at this point, or just didn't notice. I'm not sure what happened here. For me, for me, the reason why I did this, where I moved up and just did a buff, is because the AI did it for me. I ran out of time. So at this point, I went ahead and just took this advantage to go ahead and get myself back into guard range. So I went ahead and did my Breath of the Tides at this point. The main reason why I did this is because Rewind was about to wear off anyway, and so I was going to be able to refresh the cooldown. It also forced the Renee to go backwards. That way she can't just run up and start just blasting me with magic, because the single target magic is going to get through. I can't guard against it, and Freya is vulnerable to ice. So that was kind of the main reason I did that. So I couldn't get an extra action because I only hit 2 targets, and also just did a little damage just to kind of keep things going. So key thing here is the forced no return extra action you can get whenever you end a turn without doing damage in threatened squares. That has worn off. That actually has a cooldown for it. So right now the cooldown is off. So if I actually move right now and don't do anything, she can actually act again. Because thankfully, Claret's coverage is ensuring that she'll always be in threatened range. So they moved up. So at this point I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and play Gospel on myself to ensure my buffs stay up. Get my extra action, and immediately move in to kill Renee. So at this point they only have physical damage. Well, they technically have Chloe. So it's now 3 on 5. So during this entire match, I'm freaking out because this is another one of those matches where if I win, I go up a rank. As I mentioned before, I threw all my previous matches where I had that potential. Alright, Mist is closing in. Discipline's going to finish her off. So here's where I screw up a little bit. I think it's this round I do it. Okay, so I do rewind. So now my AoEs should be up either now or next round. Also, just simply because of positioning and the mist closing in, I had to move somebody out of guard range. So I went ahead and picked Sophia. Because at this point, I don't really need her to be around anymore. So I was like, okay, good to go there. So yeah, I do Tidal Surge. So this is where I messed up. I think what I should have done is I should have pushed upwards. I should have went down this way and pushed upwards, and then I would have been able to get the kill on Chloe. Because the Landius wouldn't move, and so it would just be Chloe and Claret moving. And at that point, I would have been able to get the kill here. So this is when I did this, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm an idiot." So at this point, I'm just trying to get in position. So moving in, getting set up here just to make sure I can be within the six squares and the 6 tiles in the middle. And I think my opponent messed up, or it's either that or he ran out of time. He was actually running. He had more time than me, but I think he ran out around this time. But moving here pretty much blocked the Chloe. Now I think the reason why he did this was he moved here so he can apply his faction buff so he can still guard Claret. If he had done that in place, he wouldn't have the guard buff. Then again, he could have just used Peace of Mind instead, but I don't know why. But with this setup here, I was like, okay, all I need to do is block her. So I actually moved my Freya up. So now the Chloe is completely trapped. Now what I thought was going to happen is I thought the Claret was going to attack my Angelina because she's not being guarded. But instead he went for Freya, or not for TRS, who's guarded. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and trap you. I'll take up the open slot so Chloe can't get anywhere. And then die from Mist. And at that point, he ran away. He was actually in a lead by damage, but at that point, I would have been able to just whittle him down with just Freya and Angelina there. But yeah, that was for me. That was a very long match. Like I said, I ran out of time. Pretty much halfway through the fight, every round started with that countdown from 15 down to 0. So I was kind of frantically doing things. So I did get silver 1, as you can see. I definitely want gold 3, but I'm not going to do it this week. Like I mentioned before, the biggest issue is right now my Rosalia is just kind of behind on arena buffs, and since I'm not getting, since I'm only getting the rares instead of the epics, that's actually hurting my my enchanting a little bit as well. Also, I'm getting less enchants in general because I'm not rushing to gold 3 like I usually do. But honestly, I think it's better this way, so I don't stress out as much. Gold 3 will, once I hit gold 3, I'll be able to relax. Of course, these videos I've been setting up, I've been kind of spreading them out, so I'll at least have coverage for the next few weeks, so you guys actually have something to watch. As always, I'm not going to be going for Langrisser or anything like that. It's just going to be mid-tier matches for me. But yeah, like I said, overall it's been pretty fun. I've actually been using other characters like Illustrial and Young Jessica, so I've been pretty happy about trying some new units. As for... there's not really anything else that I'm preparing for. I just got caught up on some of the event stuff. The Sweat and Cheers, I just caught up on the story mode for that finally. I still haven't done any of the new story mode that came out from a few, like a couple of patches ago. Like up here, I still have to do a bunch of this stuff. I did like one of the battles here, I think, but I haven't really taken the time to go ahead and do it. I've just been so busy. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. When we come back, I'll obviously be trying to go for gold 3 and becoming frustrated. So until then, I am the Depressed Dealer. This was Langrisser Mobile. See you guys later.